I live with my sister in a two-floor mother-daughter house, meaning it has two kitchens. She takes the downstairs while I take the upstairs. She isn't home much since she often stays with her boyfriend who lives about 20 miles away. I'm 30, and being home alone shouldn't freak me out, but sometimes it does. One night I was watching a scary movie in my living room. The space is an open layout, with the living room, dining room, and kitchen all connected. My couch sits in the middle, meaning when I'm facing the TV, my back is to a large part of the room. Watching a horror film in the dark like that, with nothing but the glow of the TV behind me, made me glance over my shoulder more than once. When the movie ended, I brushed my teeth, turned off the lights, and went to bed. After a couple of hours of sleep, I suddenly woke up to the sound of a voice downstairs. It sounded like my sister's. She wasn't calling for me to unlock the door. It sounded like she was already inside. Groggy and confused, I figured maybe she was arguing with her boyfriend or trying to get my attention. As I made my way through the dark hallway, I heard her again, this time clearly calling my name. I went downstairs, fumbling for the light switch. When I finally lit up the kitchen, the entire downstairs brightened slowly. But no one was there. Not her, not her boyfriend. Her bedroom was empty too. I shouted her name once more, but the only response was the sound of something dropping to the floor in her bedroom. The same bedroom I had just checked. Terrified, I ran back upstairs like a child, locked myself in my room, and called her several times. She didn't answer. The next morning, I woke up to a text from her asking why I'd called her at 1 in the morning. She confirmed she'd been at her boyfriend's house all night. When I checked her room again, nothing was on the floor. Nothing that could have caused that sound. I told myself it must have been a hallucination, though I've never hallucinated before. The alternative is something I'd rather not consider. When I was 10, my parents rushed out late at night after learning my brother had been hit by a car. They left me at home, trusting I could handle being alone for a few hours. I was playing a video game when I heard the front door open sometime after midnight. At first, I thought it was my parents returning, but I didn't hear any voices or footsteps. I quietly peeked from upstairs and froze when I saw 3 tall strangers standing in the dark living room. Heart racing, I crept back into my room and shut the door, but the faint click gave me away. I darted into my closet, hiding behind stacks of bags and boxes. My bedroom door opened and footsteps crept inside. The sound of my blankets being shifted made my blood run cold. Then silence. The footsteps stopped right outside the closet. After a pause, the door creaked open. I held my breath, crouched low, not daring to move. For what felt like forever, someone just stood there. Then the door shut. The footsteps retreated. When my parents finally came home, the front door was ajar and many valuables were missing. I told them everything. To this day, I don't know if the man who opened that closet saw me and decided to spare me, or if I just narrowly escaped being found. When I was a kid, I was often left home alone because my mom worked overnight shifts as a nurse. One weekend, a girl I liked named Molly came over. We watched movies until she had to leave, since her parents didn't like her out too late. After she left, I went upstairs to my room, which faced the backyard. A few minutes later, I heard the scrape of a chair being dragged across the deck. Curious, I peeked out my window and saw someone sitting in one of the deck chairs. At first, I thought it was Molly, maybe coming back for something. But when the person looked up, it wasn't her. I ducked away from the window, terrified. I texted my friends, but none of them admitted to being at my house. Gathering courage, I peeked again. The man was still sitting there, staring up at my window. I asked him what he wanted. He didn't answer. Instead, his shoulders started shaking like he was laughing, but no sound came out. Then I heard faint wheezing, like he was laughing so hard he could barely breathe. When I begged him to leave, he only got up and tried the back door. Then he went to the front, rattling the doorknob and shoving against it. Thankfully, it was locked, and eventually, he gave up. I hid in my room all night until my mom came home. When I told her, she was furious I hadn't called the police. Looking back, I realize how easily things could have ended much worse. At 23, I was playing basketball outside one afternoon when I noticed a woman staring at me from one of our upstairs windows. She wasn't my mom or my sister, just some random woman. When she saw me notice her, she vanished from sight. I ran inside and searched every room of the house, top to bottom, even the basement. No one was there. Convinced she had slipped out the back door, I locked everything and tried to calm down. That night I was restless, tossing in bed. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard noises beside me. When I turned over, my blood froze. The same woman was crawling out from under my bed. She stood tall over me. I screamed and tackled her, pinning her to the ground. She clawed at me, leaving scars on my arm as I dragged her toward the front door. At that moment, my neighbor rang the doorbell. I pulled the woman outside, and together we restrained her until the police arrived. She cursed, screamed, and threatened us the entire time. The officers knew her immediately. She was a local drug addict named Karen, someone they had dealt with before. Watching her shoved into the back of a police car was strangely satisfying. That night I couldn't sleep, but not entirely from fear. There was also relief, knowing she hadn't gotten away with it. One summer, when I was a teenager, my parents went on a week-long trip, leaving me home alone. Our house bordered the woods, with a large deck overlooking the backyard. One night, while sitting on the deck listening to music, I heard a man's voice calling from the trees. At first, I ignored it, but then it came again. "Hey, over here. We need help." The voice was too deep to be a kid, and it seemed directed at me. Against my better judgment, I called back, asking what was wrong. The man replied, "We're stuck in the woods." "Right in front of you. I see you." I stepped off the deck, halfway to the tree line, before my instincts told me to stop. Something felt wrong. Why would someone say they were stuck in the woods while clearly able to see me? I backed away, returned to the deck, and locked myself inside. Moments later, the voice came again, this time from the backyard, closer than before. I heard splashing in the pool. When I looked out the window, I saw a man's head peeking over the far side. He banged on the window, screaming for help, then laughing. I yelled at him that the police were coming, shouting until he finally backed off. Eventually, the laughter faded, and he disappeared into the night. I don't know what he wanted, but it was no kind of help.